So, Don, we were talking a little bit about Iowa State. I don't want to totally shift gears here.
Okay.
But these last few minutes of our show this evening, I do want to talk about this Cyhawk game because I know you have not seen probably a second of the Iowa State UNI game, and neither have I at this point. But we know they struggled 16-10 over Iowa State, which took me for a huge surprise. We know they've struggled with UNI in past seasons, and I'm sure that at least to a degree surprised you. What are you looking for this next week in Ames?
Well, I look for a great effort out of Iowa State, a great effort out of Iowa. I will suggest that today, Iowa State's goal was to play vanilla football and win the game. In other words, whatever new wrinkles they might have put in for the season, they were hopeful that they wouldn't have to show any of those today. Now, I don't know how it all played out. We're not surprised. We know so much. Of course, I know a lot about that conference, a lot about Northern Iowa because we played them every year. And we know that the best teams in the Missouri Valley can play and scare anyone in 1A football, very few exceptions. One of my proudest losses ever was to LSU, but they were the number one ranked team that year, and we played them a lot better than all kinds of SEC teams. And after that game, Nick Saban, to his credit, he said we will not be hit any harder all season than what we were hit tonight by Western Illinois. That's a great compliment to our team. Northern Iowa, of course, gets excited about playing both Iowa and Iowa State. And you might recall the last time they played, of course, it was a barn burner too. So it's not surprising that UNI gave them a scare. But I would suspect that Iowa State spent quite a bit of time trying to beat them without revealing any new wrinkles for the fall. They're hoping they can save those for Iowa. And you can bet that we'll see some things next weekend that were not shown today.
Iowa is used to going up against solid tight ends in the Big Ten Conference, but Charlie Kolar is one of the best in the country for Iowa State. He did not play today, had dealing with a lower body injury, so we don't know. At this point, we don't know his status for next week. But what Iowa does know is what Brock Purdy brings to the table, his ability to scramble. I would expect him to be much more mobile than Michael Penix was today. Do you feel that this defensive line is up to the task against a more mobile quarterback next week?
I think you're right. I think it'll be at least as much of a challenge, if not more of a challenge, to be able to defend Iowa State's quarterback because he's a heady player. He's certainly not afraid to pull the ball down and run with it, and he's not too worried about avoiding hard hits either. You know, he's a good, tough player that has absorbed more than a few hits in all the time he's been a starter. It'll be a challenge. You know, the crowd noise that bothered Indiana today will be bothering us next weekend. And part of our job is to quiet the crowd. You know, there's only one way to do it. You got to make plays. Now, one thing that would help, Indiana fell into the trap. I was explaining to my daughter because we were sitting together at the game, and I said, she said, what can you do about the crowd noise? And I said, well, one thing you can do is call plays that are more all-purpose that don't require you to check out. You know, if it's a specific play that is compromised because of a particular alignment that you get, then you need to change the play, obviously, and that's what Indiana was trying to do early in the game, and I think that bothered them some. It bothered them a lot. I think there were times when not all 11 players were on the same page, and not to mention, of course, they were fighting the clock, and they were, they were just a little discombobulated because of the crowd noise. So one solution is to simply call plays that are capable of going against almost any defense. And there are plays like that. And in those spots, you might think seriously about calling those plays so that you wouldn't have to check out. And now, if it's all purpose, now you can not only stay in the play, you can get up and run it on first out. You know, you don't have to leave those guys in their stance so long. That's when you're more likely to get a false start, is they're in their stance and now you're changing the play and they're trying to hear. And it's a little stressful for those old linemen to do that. So one simple solution is call an all-purpose play, call it on an early snap count, get up there, get lined up, and run the ball or throw the ball. It doesn't have to be a run. It's just a play that is sound versus any and all kinds of looks. And there are runs and passes that can get that accomplished.